Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the program on radio.com. This evening, we'll be joined on WFAN at 6 o'clock, as always. We'll do some NBA today because that's obviously the story of the day as the Knicks are out shopping for a new boss. And obviously, they have so much work to do, and there's rumors abounding, and you'll hear a million stories there. There's also this Mets story going around about whether or not, or at least the rumor that there may be some problem with the ownership transfer and with Cohen buying into the team. I don't know if that's true or not. I have not been able to chase that down. That's one you can chase down from two sides. You can chase it down from the Wall Street side. You can chase it down from the Mets side, but I have not had time to do that. I haven't looked into that at all, so I don't know if there's anything to that or not. Remember, this is a guy that's got some baggage. We know that. I mean, that's public record if you go look. He's got plenty of baggage when it comes to stuff that's gone on in his financial career on his way to building this massive amount of wealth. That's public knowledge, so you can go look that up. But whether or not that is a problem or whether or not there is anything that's true in that story, I just don't know yet. I do not at all. So we'll see what's going on. As we said, we're inching closer to see what's going to happen in the NBA as far as the trades. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And I want to put the finishing touch on the Super Bowl for a couple of minutes here. Of course, first thing, number one, I see story after story everywhere. Story after story about how this is the beginning of a budding dynasty for Kansas City. How Kansas City not only should be favored to repeat, but should be an overwhelming favorite to repeat. That is from people who have no clue about how the NFL works. It is incredibly difficult to repeat in the National Football League. Everything that is done in this league is done to make sure that we don't have dynasties and is in the way of a team repeating. We have not had a team repeat in 15 years. And we have only had one team, and that be the Pats, repeat in the last 21 years. The last real dynasty in the NFL, built before the process, the free agent process, was in complete fruition, was the Dallas Cowboys. They won back-to-back. They won 3 out of 4. And then never won again. But again, all they did was do it once, and they did win 3 out of 4. The Steelers, back in their heyday when it was a much easier thing to keep players, won 4 in 6 years. They won back-to-back twice over 6 seasons. But again, right now, the idea of making the Chiefs a favorite, look at the road. And I picked the Chiefs to win it from day one. I picked Chiefs over Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I mean, Chiefs over New Orleans in the Super Bowl. That was my Super Bowl pick. I picked it again for the playoffs because there was no reason to change. I picked Kansas City every step of the way, and it was hard. They had to have things break for them in the regular season. They didn't have to go to Baltimore. They got home field, which they hadn't earned. They earned it because of the fact the Pats lost to the Dolphins, and then the Titans upset the Ravens so that they didn't have to go play the AFC title game on the road, and then they had to overcome 3 double-digit deficits to win a championship. You know how hard that was. The idea that it will get easier from here is crazy. Yes, they have a guy who is a top coach in Andy Reid, and now he'll be recognized for that, and I'm very happy about that. It took this championship for that to be the case. And they have the quarterback in place. You know what? So have the Green Bay Packers through the years. He's won 1 Super Bowl. So did the Green Bay Packers with Brett Favre. He won 1 Super Bowl. So have teams that have had Dan Marino and Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, and on and on and on. It is very difficult to win a Super Bowl, no matter how good your quarterback is. And winning back-to-back Super Bowls is an incredibly difficult task because players, the modern player, except the great, great player who is looking for iconic status, and Mahomes might be one of those. Let's just assume he is, that he's going to become the next Tom Brady, that he's going to take his place among the great quarterbacks. The other players come into the league, the really good players. I'm talking about guys drafted in the top 10. I'm talking about guys who can't miss, and they have two things they want to accomplish. One, they want to get wealthy. And two, they want to play on a championship team. They want a ring. A ring. They don't care if they get rings. They want a ring. When they get the ring, they go after the money. When they get the money, late in their career, they go after the ring. The guys who got the ring will now go after the money. Signing guys on that team who are champions now, it will take extra money to sign the same guy who would have stayed to win a championship. Now he'll want to get paid. You can't pay all of them. And the idea that they won't be, the team that everybody looks and circles on the schedule next year. They become everybody's game. They become everybody's mission. On top of that, they don't have the same hunger. They don't play with the same thirst. They don't have the same commitment from trainer to workout people, from every player on the roster to your biggest star. It just is difficult. And now they will spend the whole offseason being feted for what they just accomplished. It makes it such a difficult thing for any team to back up a championship in the NFL with another one. And that's why it is very rare for a team to make it to back-to-back Super Bowls, no less win back-to-back Super Bowls. So if I'm making teams the favorite for next year, I'm making 4 or 5 teams favored over Kansas City just because of all the roadblocks I just mentioned that will be thrown in their way. That will make it a difficult chore. A better thing would be to say, I think they could win another one in the next 3 years. All right. That might be very plausible. Might even be fairly realistic. Andy's 61. He's got years left. But the bottom line is the idea that this will be an easy thing to be back in the Super Bowl next year and win it again, utterly, utterly ridiculous. It's not the way this league works. It's not the way this league is set up. It is set up for anything but that to happen. And to accomplish it will be an incredible feat. Mahomes is on his way to being the face of the league. He will have countless commercials. He will make a fortune. But the contract he signs that will be enormous, it's been talked about at even $40 million, will take away from his team. Even with the salary cap that it breaks $200 million, it'll be very difficult to sign all the guys. And the guy who took a discount to go back and try to win a championship, or to go and try and win a championship, that player, that key guy, wherever he may reside, he'll want more money. He won't take that discount. He'll want that extra money this time because now he's got his ring. Now he wants his security. They want the ring until they get the money, and then when they get the ring, they want the money. Late in their career, when they've made a ton of money and they don't have the ring, they go searching for the ring. That's how it works. Now, you could say right now, okay, that Mahomes is without question going to win countless Super Bowls. Of course they said that. They said it about Dan Marino when he lost in his second year. Oh, he'll be back 5 or 6 times. I remember the statements. He never returned to another Super Bowl in his career. And look at all the guys who have won one. They outnumber by a lot the guys who win multiple Super Bowls. Doesn't happen very often. Really doesn't. Not an easy chore by any stretch of the imagination. Okay? A difficult, difficult thing to do. And again, in this league now, everything has to break right for you. Absolutely everything. Otherwise, you know what? It is just too hard to do. You got to stay healthy. You got to get a little lucky. Things have to break right. And if they don't, you know that? Then it gets tougher and tougher. Look how long it took Andy Reid to win a Super Bowl. Andy Reid had 14 teams that had won 10 or more games. He had been to countless championship games. And it took him all these years. It took him over 20 years to become a champion. It is not an easy thing to accomplish. And back to back, hey, A lot easier said than done. Mark D'Antoni's stepping down as the head coach at Michigan State. He's done a solid job there. Been a little overshadowed at times. Listen, at Michigan State, you're always going to be overshadowed. You're going to be overshadowed by Ohio State. You're going to be overshadowed by Michigan. That's just the way it is. Whether Michigan's doing well or not, they're the story. Ohio State, always the story. Michigan State, always on a rung below, even if they have really good teams. And he had some very good teams and did a solid job. So he's coached a long time. Solid job, as we said. Always had a representative team, always had a good defense, but always just a cut below when it came to being, the team in the Big Ten. Very tough to do. But stepping down, and again, from a standpoint of what he did at that school, did a nice job. Really did. I think overall did a very, very nice job there, and will be missed as far as that's concerned. As we said, we'll get into some NBA stuff in a couple of minutes, and then I'll be joined on the Fan at 6. There's some interesting college basketball games tonight. And as far as college basketball, the college basketball season now starts about the 10th of November, which is insane. And everything's about March. Doesn't matter whether you win a conference championship. Doesn't matter. It matters, to the guys who are involved, whether they win a conference championship and whether they win 25 games or whatever they do. But to the rest of us, all that matters is whether they're there in March and play well in March. And I start looking at teams and noting whether I think they're a team that can do some damage in March with when they play this week. The second week in February, I begin to take seriously what they've done before that, be it good, be it bad. I don't care. I don't care if they were the Dynamos of November. I don't care if they ran off every game in the non-conference schedule. I want to see what they're doing now. Okay? So if you take a look at Mississippi State against Kentucky tonight, you know what? That Mississippi State team's coming on. You want to see if they can be a team that can play on this level now as they're getting hot at this point. Or what a team that you had big expectations for that might be struggling a little bit. What are they doing now? Do they have a player hurt early? Have they put some freshmen in the lineup? Have they do some different things? Have they developed a team that gets better and better as you hit this time of year? Now it's real. The only thing I have to say about that you have to watch is the last week of the regular season, the week before the conference championships. You have to be very careful. There will be 4 or 5 just games that make no sense in what happens. You always got to dismiss those. There'll be some crazy losses. There'll be some big upsets and stuff like that. It's kind of the dog days. And then comes March. But the bottom line is, when you look at them now in February, this is when you kind of separate what's good and what's not. Forget what happened in December. It is a long, long time ago, and completely dismiss the darlings of November, because by the time you hit February, they could be a very, very different team. We got some NBA to get to. As we said, we'll be joined by the Fan at 6. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back with an NBA guest, and we'll do some Knicks stuff and some trade deadline stuff right after this. And you get tired of talking about the Knicks. They just have so far to go, and whether or not they can land one of these really good executives remains to be seen. Brian Getzeiler joins us now. Brian, welcome. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. I'm good. How you doing, pal?
All right, let's start with the Knicks. Mills, who I know very, very well. I mean, I actually knew his old man, who was a coaching legend on Long Island, Ollie Mills. At Hempstead High School, was a guy who coached women the championship, men the championship. I mean, legendary coach. He comes from a basketball family. It was time to go. He's a gentleman, but it was time to go. Can the Knicks, as an outsider looking in, can the Knicks land one of the big name people that they are feverishly trying to land?
Well, Mike, I think it depends who, and I say that in this way. Because what's going to happen is this: the way the NBA season, like when the NBA season ends, we are right into draft season. You got to remember that the draft doesn't come long after the finals, so you have to start studying kids at the combine. You have to have your scouting in place. You have to get an idea what you're doing pretty much right as the season wraps. That when you look at a name like Masai Ujiri, that's a little problematic. I don't anticipate he's going to leave the Raptors before this season ends, and at that point, you have to turn around and negotiate some kind of compensation for him. So your timeline is really messed up for it because the Raptors could go pretty far in the playoffs.
Well, this is a case where he's only coming if Adam is playing deal maker.
No doubt about that.
And if Adam has set this up in advance, and this name has been mentioned for months and months already, so let's say Adam paved the way, and that maybe Toronto's not going to stand in the young man's way. Okay, let's just say, and they're going to let him take a swing at New York. What do you think the compensation is?
Well, I think the compensation will be a first-round draft pick. Will it be a lottery pick? The Knicks have to have rocks on their head.
Right. You can't give them a lottery pick. You can't give them a lottery pick. No.
But what would be an interesting move and make the Knicks actually look somewhat shrewd is pulling a lottery-protected pick in the next 48 hours for Marcus Morris and swing that to Toronto for Masai. Then you're onto something. But I'll also say this about Adam Silver getting involved to broker this thing. And, yeah, Mike, listen, it's the worst-kept secret in the world.
Right.
Masai Ujiri wants a Knicks. We know that.
Right.
The problem is that PR-wise and media-wise, how's that going to look up in Canada where they just won a title? They lost their star player to L.A., and now you're going to broker a deal to help strip them of their team president to come to New York. The whole large market thing in the NBA, and a very hard time saying all markets are created equal under that scenario. Now, with all that said, Toronto's got a fantastic Ujiri replacement sitting in-house in Bobby Webster, and that's an important thing to note. So for Toronto, they get a lottery-protected pick. Masai may leave at the end of next year anyway, because here's the other thing about Masai you got to remember. He's got plenty of money, Mike, so he doesn't have to go right to his next job from the Raptors.
Does he want New York?
African charities.
He wants New York. Does he want the glitter? Does he want to be a big star in New York?
Oh, yeah.
He does,
Because he not only does he want to be a big star in New York, the charitable work he does for Africa is a passion project to him, and he thinks that the platform of New York can make that huge, and he can do great work there as well. So I think there's a variety of things for Ujiri that make the Knicks attractive.
Think, all right, now, if he's out, the next stop's Oklahoma City. We know that. Now, how likely is that? If one isn't there, what about 1A?
I don't think 1A is there at all. He's got a treasure chest of assets there. Sam Presti's got a great thing going there. I don't know why he would leave it. Look what they've been able to do this year. And to run, and he has autonomy there. To run into a situation where you're not sure if you have autonomy, I listen, as many zeros are behind that check that Sam Presti would get, I just don't know professionally if that would be worth it to him. I'll throw two names out there that I think are interesting, that are currently working, that I think were guys that potentially may have some interest in the job and could be attainable if you turn around and you're able to talk to these teams, especially one in particular, because the team's going to be out soon. I've heard Neil Olshey's name attached to this job.
Okay.
And he's a Brooklyn native. And the thing about Olshey is that he's got a great relationship. Paul Allen has passed away, so it's his family that's there. He's got a great relationship with them. He's done a lot of great work in Portland. If he wanted to go, I don't know that they would look to hold him back. So that's an interesting name. And somebody brought this up to me today, and I think this is a little bit of a reach, but it's worth mentioning. You know, the relationship in Houston between Fertitta and Daryl Morey is not exactly great since the whole China thing and the way Fertitta didn't have his back at all in any of it. The other thing is Fertitta is hand to mouth there financially.
I think he gets punished now, though. I think he gets punished. I don't think he gets to come to New York. I think he's going to get punished. I don't think he's going to get this plum. I don't think so.
And I'm not going to tell you you're wrong about that, because I know that there's a lot more.
They're very upset. A lot of guys upset about him opening his mouth.
A lot of people.
Well, it cost him $200 million. That's why. I mean, it cost them a lot of money. Yes,
a ton of money. And the thing is
there any sleeper guy that people haven't mentioned? Is there a guy in the league? Give me a sleeper guy who you think's pretty talented, who maybe is flying under the radar.
Yeah, and Mike, I hold on to your heart when I tell you this one, because I heard this name today from a source I believe is pretty damn good, and I think this is a guy that they have talked to or are going to talk to soon, and it's Sam Hinkie.
Really?
Yes, and I love it. I love it. You know what? He made mistakes with Philly. Okay?
Right.
Was he willing to take risks? Did he know how to draft? Did he block out all the noise and do things his way? He did it all. And here's the thing about the Knicks. They are not patient. They fly by the seat of their pants. There's no vision. It's what's the next move, and let's just run and go make it. This guy puts a plan in place. He's systematic. And again, if he's going to come back to the NBA, he's got to understand he's got to play the game a little bit better. Now, he can't hide from the media in New York the way he did in Philly.
No.
That's not going to work. So he has to be ready to be front and center a little bit more. But if he is ready to be front and center a little bit more, and having the finances to work with what he does, they could do a heck of a lot worse than him, man. I was very critical of him during the process because I just didn't agree with being intentionally bad and doing some things he did with players in the way that he did. I just didn't love the way he operated business. With that said, the guy's a genius. He's brilliant, and he sees things from a different angle. And to me, for the Knicks, talk about getting a different voice in there, a different set of eyes, starting from scratch. To me, that's actually a pretty good option.
All right, let's get to it. We got a lot to talk about trade-wise. Here we go. Brian Getzeiler from NBA Radio. Here we go. All right, now, you mentioned Philly. How about these crazy rumors about Embiid being traded?
Right now, they have an Embiid problem, and I don't think Embiid's going to be traded between now and Thursday. But I know I know that they're looking at because a couple things with Embiid.
Is it impossible?
Is it possible this summer? Yes. Depending if Philly's
not possible this week under any circumstance.
Happening this week.
Okay.
It's not happening this week. What you may see them do is add a Derrick Rose, and you and I discussed that last time we talked.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the likely place for him to go because they're desperate for him, and the Pistons are holding out for a first-round pick. I do know that they offered Zaire Smith for him and were rejected because Zaire Smith's just not enough. I don't think the Sixers want to part with a first-round pick, but I think with the way things look there right now, I think they're going to have to. But yes, it wouldn't surprise me this summer to see in one form or another Embiid and Simmons separated.
All right, we know Iguodala is going to get traded. I mean, basically, he's off the team. And not only that, it's even caused a fight between Morant and Curry. When I understand Curry sticking up for a guy he won championships with, but let's be honest, I'm the biggest Iguodala fan in the world. He's been a jerk with this team.
Thank you, Mike.
The guy is the Robert Horry of this age, but don't go to a team of young players and treat them like they're garbage. You can't do that, and that's what he's done.
Well, Mike, I just take a look at how Chris Paul's handled the situation, getting sent to a place he didn't want to go. He's away from his family for the first time in his career, Chris Paul. He has done there. He's rolled up his sleeves. He's taken Gilgeous-Alexander under his wing, and he's helped to make the kid a really, really good player in this league and been a positive influence. And look what happened. They're going to go to the playoffs. Andre Iguodala decided he was too good for the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yep.
And you want to get traded from the Memphis Grizzlies, Mike? The best thing to do is show up and be a good guy and a good citizen and make life easy and prove some value. You want to stay home, and I do know this. There was a lot of ruffled feathers over him at the studio table on ABC a couple of weeks back, like he doesn't have another job that he's getting paid to do here. I can't stand what Iguodala's done. I think it's totally disrespectful to the Grizzlies, and I think it's disrespectful to the sport. You know what? You're getting paid $17 million.
Yep.
It's your God-given
and don't
right
treat the next generation of players.
Works, Mike.
Right, don't treat, and Morant's right. I mean, he's 100% right, and I understand Curry defending his guy. I do understand that.
Too.
But you know what?
Too.
Iguodala is wrong. The best thing they can do is get Iguodala out of there. Where is Iguodala going to wind up?
You know, it's funny. I think that for a while I thought it was Dallas. I'm starting to think Miami may end up being the place because if you can get a situation where, like, Derek Jones Jr. is an interesting player, and I think they pony him up for Iguodala, and if you're willing to take James Johnson's contract next year, you got yourself a marriage. And I think for them right now, for Miami, they do need, with all these young guys, they just need another veteran piece. And I know they were running at Drew Holiday for a while, but Holiday's not getting dealt to this summer, if he gets dealt at all. So and they're not interested in Kevin Love's money, and they're smart to not be interested in Kevin Love's money, but they need some kind of veteran there. So yeah, I think it's good. It's going to be Miami, but again, I wouldn't rule the Lakers out of it either. Just because
that's
aggregate
perfect.
enough salary without having to part with him. Bradley would be the most major piece they part with. The one thing I'll say though, Mike, is I think the Kobe tragedy may make it a little tougher for the Lakers to break up anybody from this group right now.
All right, now Morris, will the Knicks trade him, and where?
One of the things with Mills getting fired here.
Yeah, there was some dispute, right? Wasn't
there
a dispute over the trade or something going? I mean, there's rumors that there was a big dispute over the trade, right?
There was a big dispute. Listen, what happened was that Steve Mills wanted to add to this team. He was looking to make a push for D'Angelo Russell. He was talking to Charlotte about Terry Rozier.
Well, he was getting heat from Dolan, no question. Yeah.
Well, I think what he thought is that he could help save his job.
Right.
And that if he could, listen, they're at 14 wins now.
Right.
If they could make their way to 28 wins from 17 last year, he had progress to advertise. And I think that's what he was going for. The reality is that that's not the way the league works right now.
Right.
And
I happen to agree with the guys who were against that. And he's just trying to save his rear end, which I understand. And he had to because Dolan flips out over to sell the team stuff. You know that he goes crazy.
Yes, he does.
He goes crazy.
And there's no coincidence that this happened with Mills not long after the
and he can't
stuff.
take that. I mean, listen, I know that. I know he can't take that. So I mean,
Can't handle it all.
All right. So where Morris has got, listen, he's got. Listen, I always think of Morris. Morris can be your 8th or 9th guy on a good team. He can be your second rotation guy. Where do you put Morris in this league?
Watch Morris with the Clippers. I think they have an expiring deal with Harkless. They have a guy in Jerome Robinson that I think the Knicks could be interested in. They took in a first-round pick from Miami to take the Harkless contract. They could also send it back out if they had to do that. But I know this, that the Clippers had made a meaningful offer to Morris in free agency that he didn't want to take so quickly, and I think he kind of regretted not taking it. And I know the Clippers really like him. So, and to me, he would be a fantastic fit there to give them one more shooter, and he can defend. And they probably would start him. They wouldn't even bring him off the bench.
Oh, really?
I think
Okay.
He'd be a wonderful fit there.
All right. How about D'Angelo Russell? He gets traded?
Yeah, listen, I think they're pushing hard. I do think he finds a way to end up in Minnesota. This whole Covington-Russell thing with Golden State, I mean, it's the problem is this, and what's intriguing about this deal is that up till now, Gerson Rosas in Minnesota has made it clear he does not want to part with this year's first-round pick. But, however, there's a big advantage to Minnesota getting out from Wiggins' money. And I could see a scenario here where somehow, some way, Wiggins and this year's first-round pick for Minnesota lands in Golden State with Russell going back to Minnesota. Because I'll tell you this, Wiggins has been, for a first overall pick, he's been more of a bust than he has.
Yes, he has.
There's no doubt.
Yes,
with that said, Mike, we know this about the league. Context is everything, right?
Yep.
You put this kid on Golden State in between Draymond, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson,
Different
and
player.
you let him relax.
Different player.
He's going to do a lot better than Harrison Barnes did, right? I mean,
A lot of guys can't
talent.
carry the mail. You put them in a spot with no pressure, they play well.
He'll be great.
Yes.
He'll be great. So then think about that. You put Wiggins in that spot. You're going to get Steph and Klay back healthy and then have 2 picks in this lottery coming up. We're going to maybe looking at the Warriors as a title contender all over again starting next year because they may take those picks and wheel them a little bit. Bob Myers is a terrific GM, but to me it's an opportunity there by taking in Wiggins' money, and that's a spot where you can make Wiggins a net positive. So I would look at something along those lines, and that's something I think does happen between now and Thursday.
Is Drummond going to get traded?
I think so, and I think he'll go somewhere for 2-2s. The problem with Drummond's fitting his money in. Like I heard they were talking about the Clippers a couple of days back. I don't necessarily see that happening. I know that Dallas just brought in Willie Cauley-Stein, but if the price was cheap enough, they have that Courtney Lee expiring deal. I could see them bringing him in. I think Drummond ends up going somewhere. It's just the Pistons are not going to re-sign him. They're going nowhere right now. He's only going to help them win games they don't need to win. It makes too much sense to not find somewhere to put this kid. And listen, the other thing is that if Atlanta ends up striking out on Capella, I think you could see Drummond in Atlanta as well.
Any of the contenders make another deal that we haven't mentioned? What happens? Anybody making a deal?
I mentioned Milwaukee and Redick to you last time we talked. For everything I'm getting from New Orleans is that Redick's not going to be available. So I don't think that's going to happen. Again, I mentioned Philly and Rose to you. The one thing that's interesting to me is Boston and Capella. I think that if Boston can find a way there with that to get involved with Houston and Capella, I think that's interesting. And Covington may get, if they can get Minnesota involved, who's willing to move Robert Covington and is holding a huge price tag for Covington. What they essentially want to do, Minnesota, is see if they can get 2 firsts for Covington so they could swing that over to Golden State for Russell. The problem is, I don't think Golden State's going to do it for that, and they really, really want Russell. So I could see a deal here, a 3-way deal involving Boston, Minnesota, and Houston, where Covington ends up in Houston and Clint Capella, without Boston having us. Think about this: if Boston can pull this off, if it's Canner, Robert Williams, and Romeo Langford, they got enough salary going out that they can make a deal to bring in Capella and keep Hayward, Tatum, Brown, Walker, and Smart. And if they can do that, they may come out of the East. That's
they could.
Capella makes them.
I thought myself, we're talking with Brian Gelsar of the NBA radio, I thought that, regular season aside, I thought Philly would be the toughest out in the playoffs. But what's wrong with them right now?
Leadership. Listen, last night Jimmy Butler tore their throats out, and I think what you saw last night is symptomatic of what's been the problem all year. They miss Jimmy Butler. They don't have a guy that makes people uncomfortable in the locker room. And listen, Joel Embiid, night in and night out, is not the killer that he needs to be. He enjoys being an A-list celebrity, I think a little more than you'd like him to enjoy it. The kid's 24 years old. He's one of the biggest stars in the world, and he's having a really good time with that. And I don't know that he's always in the right condition. And although Simmons plays hard, they got him playing out of position. Mike, when we talked before the season began, we did say one thing about Philadelphia. It was the parts, we weren't sure the parts were going to fit, and either it was going to be a spectacular success or a failure. It's a failure right now. Look at them. If they stay where they are in the standings, they won't even be at home in the first round of the playoffs. You're not coming out of the conference doing that. The conference is too tough with Miami playing as they are, and Boston strong and about to get stronger, and Toronto playing great. So, you look at all those things. At Philadelphia, to me, it's about leadership right now. And every team you look at in the East has that guy that's a leader. And let's face it, Siakam is that guy in Toronto, but there's enough veteran support that rallies around
And they
him.
got tough guys. Van Vliet's a tough guy. They got tough guys on that team. Lowry's a tough guy. They're all tough guys on that team.
Yes, but you need that kind of veteran support. And listen, I'm going to say it, the biggest misnomer out there in the NBA, people talk about Al Horford being a veteran leader. 2 seasons in a row, he's on teams where locker rooms are imploding and teams are underachieving, and he sits silent. Here he's sulking because he doesn't like his role. So, the problem with them is they just don't have the right pieces. And here's the bottom line. They didn't want Jimmy Butler back last year because they felt as though he made everybody a little bit too uncomfortable in the locker room, was a little too outspoken, and they chose Tobias Harris over him. Think they're regretting that choice right now?
Also, he's got a perfect mentality because he's got a Pat Riley mentality anyway.
Yes,
so Riley loves that stuff. So he's made for Riley. Riley wants tough guys. He likes tough guys. He likes mentally tough stuff. That's what he believes in. So that's why it's perfect. Boston, to me, though, I know Kemba Walker can shoot you home in the fourth quarter. What I don't like about them is Tatum. He just doesn't do it for me in the big games. I haven't seen that yet, so I don't trust them in a big spot in the postseason. I would still like Philly more, but again, Philly's got this dysfunctional quality that is very obvious. So that has to change for them. I think they're the threat. Obviously, everyone's going to look at the records, but I think they're the threat of the teams that's not going to be in the best position, that they have the ability, if everyone plays to their maximum, they could come out of the East. But I don't know that they seem to have the chemistry. It doesn't look like it's there.
It doesn't. And Mike, you know this from the amount of years you've watched this league. It is really tough to win 3 playoff series in a row when you don't have home court.
Very hard.
Very hard. And that's the road Philly's on, which is why I think Philly has to. They have no choice if they want to do something this year. They're paying Al Horford, Mike, $27 million a year at the age of 33. All right, that their time is now. And I know the guys are young and beating Simmons. Your time's now. That's why I think they have to do something for Derrick Rose. I'll tell you this about Boston. All right, Boston has these ideal long wings that the whole league, loves and is dying for. The reason that Minnesota is asking 2 firsts for Robert Covington is because he's the type that everybody wants. They got 2 of them in Tatum and Brown. And I'm going to tell you something. I agree with you on Tatum, and my weekend partner.
He should be better. He should be better.
Okay, no doubt. We both like Jaylen Brown better than Tatum. Jaylen Brown shoots better from 3. He's a significantly better defensive player. All right, and he gets to the basket better. Brown is an excellent player, one of the more underrated players in the league. But Hayward's playing at a high level there. They got multiple ball handlers. The thing I like about them is that with Hayward on the floor, they can take Walker off the ball. And taking Walker off the ball and letting him attack from a wing makes him a much more dangerous player. Because here's the other thing about bringing Capella in. Capella is the best big in the league at switching onto smalls, and he makes your defense more versatile. You don't have to worry so much about helping recover there. You can switch everything with Clint Capella on the floor. You can't do it with Tice, and you can't do it with Enes Kanter.
Tell me this, and I don't usually care about these things because I don't watch All-Star games anyway, but how did they have an All-Star game or have an All-Star team and not put the kid in Phoenix? How does Booker not make the All-Star team?
I don't understand it for a life.
I mean, how can a guy play like he's played in the last 30 games? I mean, did they not like him or something? I mean, how does he not make the All-Star team?
You know what? They took Brandon Ingram instead, and although Brandon Ingram played very well and he's had a really good year, for the life of me, I can't figure it out. I really can't. The only
and
thing
I don't usually care, but that kid is like number 2 scorer in the league like the last 30 games. I mean, he's been unbelievable.
He's played an all-around game. You know, when he when he went to Phoenix, when Monty Williams went to Phoenix, I figured that was going to be either the worst thing that happened to Booker or the best thing that happened to Booker. And it's been the best thing that happened to Booker. The kid's a great player, and there's no reason for there to be an All-Star game without him. And yes, I like Brandon Ingram, and he's had a wonderful year, but Phoenix is played pretty much the same as New Orleans, and Booker's just been better. It's really hard for me to look at
that one. I just don't understand. That's totally kind of puzzling. And how about the back-to-back games that Lillard played on the night when they came back and played, and he had 48 against the Lakers, and then followed it up with 51 the next night. I mean, how about the game he played against the Lakers? I happened to watch that game because I was down in Florida, and I was it was a late night, and we had just got flown in for the Super Bowl, and I'm watching that game, and he put on a show in that game.
Amazing.
I mean, what a performance that night. I mean, he was just unstoppable, and the next night he puts up 51.
Yep, and keep in mind, Mike, he had 61 and 47 2 games before that.
Unbelievable.
They won 5 of 6, okay, and 4 in a row. The last 6 games he's played been off the charts, and one of those in there, he had his first career triple-double with 36. He's been amazing for them. And listen, they're not a great team right now. They're struggling a lot. McCollum has had such a bad year that no one's talking about. He's been such a disappointment for them up and down the line. The Ariza trades helped. The Melo's played decent for them, and Whiteside's had a great year.
Whiteside's good. Whiteside played great in the Laker game. Played absolutely. He played superb both ends of the floor in the Laker game that night.
Yep, Stotts has done an excellent job with him. Also, listen, here's the thing about Whiteside. It's no coincidence he's having this kind of year in a contract year. Mike, he did that with the Heat also.
Yeah, I tell you, he had a great game. I happened to watch that Laker game. I didn't see much of the game the next night, but that night in the Laker game, he had a sensational game.
Yeah.
Really, both ends of the floor played an absolutely great game. Zion so far. Forget the craziness of the first night when he knocked down those threes. We know that's not his game. Since then, he's given you exactly what you would expect. He shoots everything around the basket, so he shoots 67%. He's struggling on the foul line. He is a good passer. He's turning the ball over too much for the amount of minutes he plays. Overall, I understand Van Gundy got on his conditioning. We know that's an issue. What would you say so far about his play?
I give him a B. I don't think he's been outstanding. I think he's been good. I think he plays defense well. I think his conditioning is an issue. I think you hit it on the head with his turnovers. I think what you are seeing happen with this team is him and Ingram struggling to both play in
Right.
space.
The team was playing great before he got there, so
Correct.
we know that.
And
that was going to happen. You knew that was going to happen.
Absolutely. And one of the Mike, you and I talked about minutes for him last time we talked, and I thought the minutes would be a little bit lower. One of the reasons the minutes are higher is because they're trying to get him and Ingram in better place here together. They want to get that worked out as soon as possible because they do realize those are the 2 main building blocks of this organization right now. But I will also tell you this. Listen, at one point they had kind of thought they were going to ship Drew Holiday out, and now when they've seen what Holiday can be mixed with these other guys, I'm talking about obviously Zion, Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart's played very well for them. You know, when they, and even Redick, when they see what they have with Holiday there, they're actually looking to maybe keep him potentially.
Has Zion done anything better than you thought he would do, or anything worse than you thought he would do?
Who, Zion?
Yeah. Has he done anything better than you thought he would do, or anything worse than you thought he would do?
I think that he is. I think his defense maybe could have been a little bit better here early on. I think that's been kind of an issue. I knew he'd turn it over a lot. And listen, he struggled from the foul line.
We know he's going to listen. You know he's going to struggle on the foul line. We know that, and he's going to shoot in the 60s from the field. We know that. I mean, those are givens. Okay,
Correct.
I mean those are givens. So he's been pretty much what we expect.
Pretty much what we expected. The defense has been a little less than I thought, which is why I give him a B instead of an A. But the offense has been pretty much exactly what I figured.
What have you seen with him running the floor? Is it terrible, or is it okay?
It's fine. It's fine. My concern with him is not him getting up and down the floor. The dude's a great athlete. My concern with him is that carrying all that weight.
Yeah, a lot of weight.
He's going to have him get hurt.
He's going to get hurt. And Van Gundy was just trying to say what everyone else says, is that if he would take 35 pounds off, he'd be a lot better player. Plus, he's going to play more games.
Correct. And he's got to do that. And I would like to see the kid do it sooner rather than later. And listen, 35 may be extreme. 20 ain't bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just because he's a strong kid, and you don't want to take any of that strength away. Part of why he's so good around the bucket is because of how well he creates space with his body. So if you change his body type too much, Mike, that becomes a harder thing for him to do. And now you're forcing him to change real big-time strengths in his game. If you take 20 off and he narrows himself up a little bit, and listen, Mike, it's funny because I looked at him on the TV screen the other night, and I happened to do the NBA rookie photo shoot in August, and my son had a picture with him from August. And you could see he's a good 10 to 12 pounds heavier now than he was when my son took the picture in August.
That's not good. A couple of things here. Okay, let's review. We're talking with Brian Gelsiler of NBA Radio. Now, Knicks, if you're handicapping, who do you think they wind up with right now? Just your projection. Who's going to be the next boss of the Knicks?
I don't think it's going to be Masai based upon the timing. The report today, I think it's going to be Austin Brown from CAA. I really do. The report today that they're kind of looking at the Myers-Palinka
right. They're going to go the agent route, is what you're saying.
I think so. And again, I'd rather see them go Hinkie. I would. And listen, I because my problem is this: if you're going to take someone,
you have a big problem with them going the agent route.
It's such an unknown. I mean, you don't know.
It has worked on occasion. We know that it has worked. Obviously,
it has worked. But again, Myers had a basketball background.
Yep.
Okay, Rob Pelinka had Kobe in his ear for all that time. And he started with Magic next to him. Like you have none of these things exist in a vacuum. Listen, I wouldn't mind if they reach back and looked at guys that they have had before that maybe could come in and build an organization who understand the process. I wouldn't mind seeing them bring Jeff Van Gundy and not necessarily even a coach to be in the front office and help build it out. I wouldn't mind seeing them even a guy like Rick Pitino that's dying to get back
I think
in.
they should break. Listen, I agree with you. I think they should put Van Gundy back in charge of the organization. I think that would be the best. I think that would be the best thing they could do. If he wants to coach, let him coach it. If he wants to run it, let him run it. Put him in a Riley role. Let him run the organization. I totally agree with that. Number one. All right. Will they, other than Morris, will they do anything? And do you think they'll do Morris?
I think they definitely will do Morris, and I think if they're going to do Morris, I think you're going to see some others go. It wouldn't shock me. Listen, because I think whoever they don't trade, they're going to buy out. So there's no coincidence they've used Smith more lately. I do think Peyton's going to go as well. I think they'll find a place to be able to send Peyton, and potentially Bullock also. I think you're going to see Gibson and Ellington right after the deadline be buyout candidates so they can go get on with somebody and play in the playoffs. But I think those 5 players are going to be
And
gone.
Will the Nets do anything?
Yeah, I think the Nets could trade Dinwiddie. It probably sounds nuts at this point with how well that he's played, but I think him and Kyrie are struggling to coexist, and I think the Nets.
Who can Kyrie exist with? Is the question.
Well, they're hoping he exists with Kevin Durant.
They better hope that. I mean, that's why he's here. I mean, they can all act and roll their eyes and say, "Oh, it's fake news that he's been a problem." Everybody knows he's been a problem. Let's be honest.
No, listen, he's a problem, but they knew they were getting a problem.
No, they did. They took one problem to get the great player.
Correct. They're not surprised that he's a problem. It's not an issue. They understand that they were going to have to deal with this stuff. The thing with him and Dinwiddie is that Dinwiddie needs the ball in his hands to be effective. Dinwiddie has become a guy that doesn't play well off the ball. So if you can go and get yourself a wing or a shooter with somebody that needs Dinwiddie, who's got a very reasonable contract right now. He's in the first year of a 3-year, $39 million deal. And for a guy that puts his numbers up, that's a spot where somebody may look to jump on a guy like that. So Dinwiddie, to me, is an interesting player, and he can help a contender a lot. Question is what they would get for it, and that's but to my understanding, the Nets are open for business, and pretty much anybody on that team's available. But Kyrie, obviously not Durant, and Joe Harris is a guy that they want to re-sign because they think having a shooter like that off Kyrie and Durant can be a tremendous asset for next year, and I happen to agree with them.
All right. Thanks very much for your time. And let me end with this, the Iguodala sweepstakes, because I think this is critical, and I think this is very important. And I'd like to see him, despite I agree with you about how he's handled things, I'd love to see him go to the Lakers. Where do you think Iguodala winds up?
I think it's either the Lakers or the Heat, but I think that ultimately it's probably going to be the Lakers. I think I would have said the Lakers before this Kobe thing, but again, you're going to have to put Quinn Cook in a deal. Would you? Yes, you can put Bradley Cousins, Quinn Cook in a deal and have enough, and Jared Dudley, and have enough money going out to bring in Iguodala. And I think they do realize on the Lakers, in one form or another, they need another piece. But I will tell you to watch the Clippers here because they may make more than one deal. They could get Marcus Morris, and it wouldn't surprise me if Montrezl Harrell he's in a contract year, and part of some of the locker room issues that they've had recently and some of the guys being a little bit unhappy with the way Kawhi's handled it have been led by Montrezl Harrell. So if they get an opportunity there to maybe bring in somebody a little bit different, upgrade that spot, watch them as well.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your time. Thanks,
Anytime,
Brian.
Mike,
Thank you. Brian Gelsai, NBA Radio. Quick break. Be right back. Yeah. All right, we're back here on radio.com. We'll be joined on the Fan at 6 o'clock, so we will be doing our 6 o'clock to 6:30 half hour on WFAN, and we'll address the Knicks stuff and the Mets stuff coming up at 6 o'clock as we get closer to the trade deadline in the NBA, as we kind of sort things out a couple of days past Super Sunday. And, you know, the other part of this, which I didn't get to before I brought in Brian, was you have the one side where everybody's on the Chief bandwagon, and that's the way it always goes, okay? But repeating is such a difficult chore. I don't care who your quarterback is. The other side is the losing coach and the losing quarterback and what they have to live with. Hey, what they have to do, they are young men. Just what you saw happened this year with the Rams. And they were dealing with these same things after having a bad Super Bowl and having you had a coach there who was the darling of the nation. You had a quarterback who people were in love with. They had a rough Sunday, and then they had a rough year. So now they're back just trying to climb up the trail like everybody else back to get another chance. And when they get back there, okay, they'll do better. Now you're dealing with Shanahan. The one thing that is just dumber than dumb, and I don't buy into it for a second, Shanahan is not responsible for what happened in the New England meltdown against the Falcons. He was not the head coach. I don't care that he called pass plays. It is up to the head coach. That's why the head coach has those guys on a splitter, so he can tell them what to do. The head coach decides whether you run the ball. And it should have been the head coach who told, as he heard the play being called, told Shanahan, hey, we're running the ball here. Understand? We got a lead. We're running the ball. Case closed. After the Julio Jones catch that gave them the first down where Belichick flipped the placard because he knew the game was over. All you have to do there is run the football. And they didn't. But that's on the head coach. He wasn't the head coach. I don't care if he was chomping at the bit to throw the ball. He should have been overruled. Now he gets into this game. And everyone's making it as simple as, oh, you can't put the ball in Garoppolo's hands. Well, you know what? I only think in that sequence there was one play where he should have run the ball automatically. Now, the first fault with Shanahan was what he pulled at the end of the half. When Kansas City has the third down play blown up, you call a timeout right there. You're about to get the ball back. You're going to have 1 minute and 45 seconds left. Instead, you let the clock run down to where you got the ball back with a minute left. I know you're getting the ball in the third quarter, but it's 10-10. You have almost 2 minutes. You're going to have 1:50 and 2 timeouts after you call timeout there. He doesn't call timeout there. The Chiefs let the clock run down. Now they run the ball into the line, and they play footsie. First down. Well, if I had gotten a big run, I would have come out. Well, you know what? You weren't going to get a big run. So he's handing it off. Now it's third down, and he doesn't want to punt. He doesn't want to give them any plays. He doesn't want to get a return, so he decides to throw the ball for a first down. He throws the ball for a first down. Now he's in business, and he makes a big play to the tight end where we know we get the offensive pass interference. And then he's screaming about that. Was that a 50-50 call? Yes. Could it have gone either way? Yes. Did he extend the arm? Yes. Is it an automatic call? No. If they didn't call it, I wouldn't have said a word. I don't think you would have either. They didn't call a lot of penalties in this Super Bowl. There were only 9 called in the game. A lot of people didn't like that call there. To me, did he extend? Yes. Was it automatically a no-brainer call? No, it was not a no-brainer call. Could have let it go. That did cost them 3 points. Okay? Blame him, though, for how he handled the final 2 minutes. Made no sense to not show more faith in your quarterback there. Now, they give up the touchdown. The 3rd and 15 play, which changed the game. It absolutely did. That play changed the game. And it wasn't a perfect throw from Mahomes. The perfect throw came to Watkins on the next drive. Mahomes on the last drive that took it from 2017 to 24-20 was as good a quarterback as a quarterback can be in a big game-winning situation. He played as well as any quarterback who's ever lived in that drive. The throw to Hill was a absolute duck. It was a floating duck. It was quacking. It was up there so long. If it hadn't been up there so long, Hill would have grabbed it and run for a touchdown. He had to wait and almost fair catch it. It was right in front of me. He was so open that he was going to catch the ball, and Mahomes got it out there, but it took forever to get there. But he makes that throw. Now they get it to 2017. Now they are going to be the Niners, and now it's all about who they are and what they've been built for. And if you had told Shanahan before the game, you're going to get the ball back, 5 minutes left, with a 3-point lead, now can you run the game out? He would have said, just give me the ball. First down, they run it for 5 yards. You know Spags is going to come up and try and get them to put the ball in the air. This is a team that had faced 8-man fronts almost 28% of the time this year. They know how to handle that. They ran against absolutely full house fronts against the Packers. On second down, they're still averaging well over 6 yards a carry in the game. You have to run the ball on second down there. It does a number on the clock. It gets the game at 4 minutes and 20 and counting. And if you get a first down there, you're in business. They throw the ball there. Bad decision. Terrible decision. Now, third down. They have to throw the ball on third down and 5. They threw it on second down. He dials up a play that you cannot put on Shanahan. He has Kittle wide open. And Garoppolo, who had a very rough finish and did not have a great game and did not have a great playoff. And I've been a big Jimmy G fan. I was for the trade. I told you the trade would pay off. It has paid off. He made the Super Bowl already. He's got a great winning record. He was not good in the playoffs this year. He was not great in this game. And he was bad in this spot. He had his number one target wide open, and he goes elsewhere with the ball, and now they're punting. And now they punted it to Mahomes. And I'm telling you, Mahomes strutted out onto that field, and basically you could just feel it. And he put together a drive for the ages. He was perfect. And the 34-yarder to Watkins, and Watkins beat Sherman from here to eternity. And Mahomes threw as perfect a pass to Watkins as you could throw in that spot. It's letter perfect. On a scale of 1 to 100, it's 110. And drops it in his pocket. And you know that they're going to take the lead. And he was as cool. He was Montana-like. And the next thing you know, he's in the end zone. And from there, he's got to play the game that he played from there. Yes, Garoppolo was bad. And on third down, Garoppolo, give him credit for recognizing the play, because when he releases that throw, he's got one receiver running a deep cross. He's got Sanders running a deep post, splitting two defenders. When he throws the ball, he does not have those defenders beat, because I'm watching it as it unfolds. But he knew he was going to beat him. He put the ball out there. Sanders beat him 2 full steps. You're holding your breath, and the ball is 2.5 yards on a line out in front and can't be reached. That 2.5 yards, which would have been a great throw, would have been a throw for the ages, is one that Jimmy's going to think about for a long time. But the one that's got to keep him up forever is the third down to Kittle. He's got him wide open on the drive before. A play he's probably thrown 100 times this year. A play they probably practice more than any play in their book. Go look at it. He's got him wide open, and he doesn't throw him the ball. That was the complete breakdown for Garoppolo. Even more than the one there. Even more than the fact that he had terrible numbers in the fourth quarter and had one of the worst fourth quarters in history. You know what happened after that. And then he threw a pick when the game was over. Who cares? That's stats. That's stats. It means nothing. The 2 plays. The third down he could have made to the deep post to salvage the game. But before that, they get a first down there. Kittle's is running. The clock now is tilted their way. The field is tilted that way, because Kittle's going to take that at least 20 yards. Now you've tilted the field. Now even if they get the ball back, it's late and all the way downfield, maybe on the goal line. Changes everything. That third down. But the second down was a complete choke by Shanahan. He's got to run. I don't care what front they were in. He's got to run, because that's who they are. And then the third down dials up the play that he's dialed up probably 1,000 times, and Garoppolo doesn't take it to his star receiver. That's how you lose. Their quarterback executed. Your quarterback didn't. Andy kept his cool. He's 61 years old, and he's been through everything. Shanahan didn't. But don't blame Shanahan for the Falcon loss. That's not on him. He's not the head coach of the team. That's head coach's job completely. When the offensive coordinator gets stupid and bold, you know what? You put him in his place and you run the game, which is what head coaches are supposed to do. Ron Howard used to say to me, I'd want to get aggressive. We be dealing, and I want to get aggressive. And I'd hear, it sounded like crickets. I'd start to call a play, and I'd hear on the splitter, run it. Run it. He said, I'd hate hearing that damn cricket. Run it. Run it. And that was Parcells telling him, don't even think of passing the ball. That's what should have happened in both those games. One, he was the head coach, and he didn't do it. The other time, it should have been told by the head coach to run it. If he had run it, he would have run it to a championship. The second time, I don't know if he would have run it to a championship or not. I don't know if they would have executed the play. But they should have run it. And then on third down, Garoppolo should have hit a tight end that he's hit 1,000 times. He just didn't execute the play. Back after this. There have been rumors that there was a breakdown over a trade. They're going to trade a bunch of guys because they got a bunch of bad players. They have a lot of work to do. Can they get the guys they want? I doubt they'll get one of the 2 people you've heard everybody talk about. We'll see how that unfolds. It'll take a little while for it to unfold, so we'll see. I have some thoughts on that, but that can wait a day or 2, because nothing's going to happen in the next 24 hours, okay? Now, the Met thing. Give Barstool credit. I gather they're the first ones that had the story today. That's what somebody came in and told me, that Barstool was the first one that had the story, so I'm hearing that's true. So give the guys at Barstool credit. You know, a lot of times when Barstool does it, people say, it's Barstool. But you know what? Give them credit. You know, if they broke the story, good for them. Now, I heard about this a little before I started the 5 o'clock show on radio.com. I called the Mets. The Mets usually take my phone calls. They didn't. They said they were in a meeting. So I did not get to anybody that I usually get to. So I don't have any information from that standpoint. Now, here's the latest story. Usually when there's smoke, there's fire. And it's not hard for these deals to break up. Now, here's what's being reported now by Thornton McInerney of the Post. I don't know who he is, but this might be a guy who might be a business writer. I'm not sure if it's a sports writer or a business writer. But it sounds like the Cohn side or the business side is talking. Remember, this one, you can get information from the Mets, you get information from Wall Street. Steve Cohen's $2.6, this is the Post story. Steve Cohen's $2.6 billion bid to buy the Mets is on life support if it is alive at all. Sources close to the situation are confirming that the billionaire hedge fund manager is ending negotiations with the Wilpons on his purchase of an 80% stake in the franchise. According to those sources, Cohen is deeply unhappy with the Wilpons changing the terms of the agreement at a very late stage and has decided to walk away. When rumors broke that the Cohen deal was dead, the Mets offered a strangely worded non-denial. They did. They put out this thing. They sent it here, too. The parties are subject to confidentiality obligations, including a mutual non-disclosure agreement, and therefore cannot comment. They sent that here. They sent it to everybody because Anthony brought it in. He showed it to me. Sources close to Cohen tell the Post, might be Cohen, tell them that the 63-year-old $13 billion man is taking the NDA more seriously than the Wilpons and is holding his tongue for the time being. This is the second time that a deal broke through. You remember David Einhorn, who's another one of these Wall Street types, okay? Very successful Wall Street guy, all right? Guy who shorts a lot of companies, as you might know. Einhorn and the Mets fell apart over something to do with the deal. Einhorn also stepped on a lot of toes. I can tell you at the time, he didn't act very well around the baseball people. He really didn't. But again, it might have come down to other things too. I'm not saying that Einhorn was to blame. I'm not saying he was at all. He didn't make a good presentation when he first showed up, but that doesn't mean the Mets didn't screw him on the deal. He might have. I have no doubt they might have or they might not have. I have no idea. So the bottom line is the deal didn't go through. Now it looks like the Cohn deal is not going through. I don't have any information on this. I apologize because I did call them. I didn't find out about it until right before I came on the air, and I didn't get through to the Mets. They told me they were in a meeting. So, and I can tell you, I texted them, and someone from the organization texted me back that said, everyone's in a meeting right now. We can't talk. That's what they said. So no one got on with me. I didn't get anybody that I usually get talk to me. So no one talked to me. So I didn't get any information. So I'm not denying any of this. I'm sure, like I said, someone came to me today and said, Barstool is reporting that the deal's off. I said, those don't appear out of thin air. Okay, when you see something like that, it usually has some basis to it. Now you're hearing rumblings that it deals off. So for Met fans, you thought you had the richest owner in baseball, and now you're back to the old days. Well, Eddie, come in here. Come in here, Eddie. I just saw Eddie walk in. Eddie's on tonight, right? He's got a hot stove. Come on in, Eddie, for a second before we take a break. So I see Eddie's in here. I haven't seen Eddie in a long time. Hi, Eddie. Sit down.
Why?
Let me ask you if you know.
I don't.
Okay, I didn't get to anybody yet, Eddie, because this is just breaking. I called. You know I have good sources with the Mets.
Yes, I've heard that.
Yes, I called and they were in meetings.
Listen, I've gotten the same. Anytime I've asked anybody over there, I get the same thing. We're proceeding business as usual, and we can't comment, et cetera, et cetera. So
Barstool broke it. Now the Post has it. That's Cohn's out.
Oh, right.
Are we stunned?
Yes.
Are we stunned?
No, I'm not stunned. I'm certainly not stunned.
It doesn't take much for a billionaire to take his ball and go home.
This has happened before.
Right.
And I don't know what the...
Einhorn didn't act right. You remember he was ticking off people in the dugout and stuff like that? He had his kids running around the whole place and everything, and he got everybody mad, and he called... He got Fred mad, and so I'm not saying they didn't screw him. They might have, but let's be honest, he wasn't acting right in the beginning. I don't know what Steve Cohen. He probably didn't even show up around the Mets yet. So
I honestly haven't seen him, or didn't see him.
So
around,
it looks like though, if
but
the Met fan thought they had the richest owner in sports, it looks like they don't.
Apparently not, unless it takes a left turn. But I don't know what the permutations are that were done to to the deal? Because apparently there was some configuring after the fact, or they tried to reconfigure some things, and that's what ticked them off. But I don't know.
Here's what I always think, Ed. When you have a deal that doesn't take place right away, there's always a chance for the deal to blow up. He wasn't taking control of the team for a while.
Right.
So when that can happen, there's always things that can happen along the way that get in the way. So that doesn't shock me. If when a guy like that takes over, when Tepper did, you come in, you buy the team. It's over.
Right.
One guy's the owner, one guy's out. Then you have an owner. Right now, you had a weird situation that puts everything in limbo.
I think when you have a 5-year grace period, and then you have a guy who has money and I believe wants to infuse that money before the 5-year grace period, then you have some problems, I think.
Okay, so have you heard, and I hadn't heard that, had you heard that Cohn wanted to spend money?
I belied that to be the case. I don't know that. Didn't talk to him about it or his people, so I don't know. But
I don't know Cohn at all. Okay. I know someone who I know a Wall Street guy who knows him very well, and all he says is he gets everything he wants. That's all he said is if he wants to make it, he wanted to buy something.
Maybe until now.
Well, yeah, I'm just surprised he didn't buy the whole thing.
Yeah, I know.
That's the way to buy it. When you're a guy like this and you got $13 billion, you go in, you buy it.
Yes. Yeah.
You give them the whole time. I don't think Fred and Jeff wanted to say goodbye, though. I think that's the thing.
No, I definitely think so. I think Fred, will eventually, ease himself out or whatever. I think Jeff wants to stay involved. And
hey, the Wilpons always said to me, Fred always said to me, if he said it once to me, he said it to me 1,000 times.
And keep it in the family.
He said, my grandkids will own the team. Yeah. He said that to me 1,000 times in the last 20 years, maybe more. So that's what I always went by because he always said that. He always said, my grandkids will own this team. Yeah, so I never thought they were going to get rid of the team.
Which was curious with this setup. But, again.
But you never know when a guy comes in and gives you a lot of money, when you're talking about billions of dollars and you're talking about tax issues and you got Sal Katz to worry about too, because his money's in there too. So who knows what was going on. So you got a guy comes in and he's going to buy the thing, but he wasn't buying it immediately. So then, and he's got a ton of money. He's a big player and he gets his way. So now that always makes things ticklish. So I'm not surprised there's a problem.
We'll see. Maybe he's totally out, but maybe he can work his magic and rework the deal. I don't know.
My gut is it's over.
My gut is it's over too. Yeah,
if this comes out, they wouldn't have let this come out.
Yeah.
If they wouldn't have let this come out. I
would say that's the case.
Yeah, it wouldn't have leaked out.
This is at least the second time it's fallen through. Basically.
Yeah, and
not this, but I mean in general.
And give Barstool credit; they broke it. So give them credit. They're the ones that evidently broke it first. So give them credit. I can't say I'm surprised.
No.
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not shocked. I honestly am not. I really am not.
And you guys haven't seen you've been around the team. I haven't. You haven't seen Cohn yet, right?
No, I have not. I have not. And again, they've been very quiet and clandestine about Brody and Jeff in particular. Anytime we've asked.
Well, the Mets have had a good offseason.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They can't hire a manager. They have to hire another manager, okay? And now they got to get another owner. I mean, anything. While the Yankees have got a team that's thinking, am I going to win 110 or 115 games?
You got guys ducking wild boars and stepping in holes and whatever. But the strange thing is there's still a lot of talent there. A lot of talent there. We'll see what happens.
Well, I got to feel that the Met fans, now you're going to open it up tonight, I'll do it here in a minute. I'm going to take a break and we'll open it up to you Met fans for a second just to get your reaction. I got to feel Met fans are going to be very unhappy about this.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, just a bit. Just a bit.
Let's put it this way.
They just went from being a very rich team to a team that is not going to spend a whole lot of money.
Let's put it this way. When my phone blew up around 3 o'clock or so, I said, boy, it's a good night to have a 3.5-hour show.
It is. Good. Eddie, are you working with who, by yourself or Sweeney?
No, Sweeney and Ricky Ricardo. How about that?
Okay, so
we got a threesome.
And you got a whole lot of Met stuff. You just got to get Cohn on.
I know he's trying to
get a Cohn. Get Gary Cohn. Get Stevie Cohn. Get Gary Cohn. Get somebody. All right. Quick break. Be right back. Thanks, Eddie. The Post got a story here. Barstool broke it. Post got a story here. A guy named Thornton McInerney. And then someone I know, not a sports guy, but a financial guy, said to me, word is circulating that deal's dead. I don't know that the deal's dead. I don't have any official announcement the deal's dead. I didn't talk to anybody, so I'm telling you that right now. They didn't call me back. They were in a meeting. I heard back from them, but what they sent back was someone who was, an assistant said they can't talk to you right now. They just wanted me to know that they can't speak to you before your show. They're in a meeting. So that's what I found out. They were all in a meeting. The story says here that the deal is either dead or next to dead, that there has been a breakdown. The deal has broken down between Steve Cohen, which would have made him the richest man in baseball at $13 billion, and the Wilpons. That the deal has broken down. No one has stated that officially yet. The Mets sent out this. The parties are subject to confidentiality obligations, including a mutual non-disclosure agreement, and therefore cannot comment. That was it. All right. What's your thought process? Let's see. Mark in Bloomfield, you start. Go ahead. What's up?
Hey, Mike. Yeah, I'm a season plan holder. I am not surprised in the least. I'm surprised it lasted this long. Who makes a deal 5 years in advance? It was destined to fail. And although now I'm kind of happy he can keep the money in his pocket, go across the river and buy my Jets, because that's really the better play here.
Well, I don't know, but I don't know that they're for sale. I mean, I haven't heard that.
Make them an offer. Make them an offer. They'll listen. The Wilpons just needed cover for this casino hotel that they want to build around Citi Field. I don't think there's
listen, I don't think that. I haven't heard anything about a casino near Citi Field. I have not heard that. So I don't think. And if that's the case, why would you be giving up 80% of the team? I don't think that's the case. They were giving up an 80% stake in the team, so they would keep it if that were the case. But deals like this fall apart. That's what happens when you don't buy the whole thing immediately. Deals can fall apart, and it looks like it may have. Dom in Jersey, go ahead, Dom.
Hey, Mike. First time, long time.
Good. What's up?
I have a feeling that the Wilpons. Do you think they really want to sell the team at all?
Well, then why would they go through this?
Well, I think if they're going to hold 20% of the team back, that they don't really have that desire to sell the team.
Well, it's a good investment. It's a good investment. You see, what it did was it gave them a lot of money. Remember, they made a ton of money on this team. They made a ton of money in terms of the valuation. They bought an option on the team. Fred had an option for half the team in the beginning. He paid for, when he bought out Doubleday, he paid them somewhere around, if I remember right, $230-something million for half the team. That was the valuation price at the time. And the initial price of the team was $20 million. So add that all up, and he's still making a fortune. He's selling 80% of it for $2.6 billion.
Right.
I mean, they made an incredible amount of money here, and they kept 20% of the process of the deal. That still left them with a lot of money in the deal. So to me, everyone says to me, "Oh, the Wilpons are dumb." Dumb. I'd like to be dumb and make a deal where I bought something and it went up, that many times in valuation. I mean, so they're not dumb. I mean, so listen. But I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. Any deal that is not completed immediately is always susceptible to failure.
Right. But do you think within themselves they wanted it to fail because they want to really be the owners of the team?
I don't know, Dom. I don't think so, because I would think, why would you go through this process if you didn't want to sell it? Why go through it at all? Now, this was a way to stay in it, but they were going to be in it as minority owners. They were still staying aboard for 5 more years. Jack in up West Side. What's up, Jack?
Hey, Mike. Great to have you taking calls now and then.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. I probably have a minority view. I grew up a Yankee fan in the Horace Clarke days, and when Steinbrenner forced the Cowser out, I'd had enough. I didn't like that kind of ownership. So I'm somebody who's always thought that the Wilpons. First of all, I think Fred loves this team like we do. We're fans. He loves this team, and I don't think that he was going to. $2 billion is hard to look away at, but I think he wasn't going to sell this team unless this deal was a perfect deal for him. And I just think, I think that Fred has always gotten a bad rap. He loves the team. I think he spent a lot of money on his team, built a beautiful stadium. They've made plenty of mistakes, and they've plenty of mistakes, had plenty of bad luck. But I don't think I think he loves the team, and that's the kind of owner I want. I don't necessarily want, wheeling dealing billionaire.
All right, so you're not happy with this, okay? Jose in Staten Island, what's up, Jose?
How are you, Mike?
Good.
How's everything?
Thank you, buddy. What's up?
Well, I find it very strange. wasn't it a number of years ago the Wilpons needed some money and they put up was it $20 million or $200 million, and somebody loaned it to them, and then when they inquired about buying more stakes in the Mets, right away they found the money and gave it back to them. Like,
well, no, they put up shares and they sold some shares, minor shares for $20 million apiece. That is not that unusual. You know, George never owned more than like 58 or 59% of the Yankees. He was always the managing general partner, and he had a lot of 4% and 6% owners who had minor stakes. Nobody had a major stake, but there were a lot of little small investors who owned part of the team, whether it was the Nederlanders, the Lester Crown, all these different guys. And that way, he was always the guy, though. All you need to have control is more than 50% of the thing. You don't have to have 100%. A lot of owners have minority owners, but they are the front guys because they have more than 50%. So they're the managing general partner, which you have to have more than 50%. Kevin in Fresh Meadows, what's up, Kevin?
Hey, Mike, how you doing
Good.
today?
What's happening?
All right, so Cohen not buying the Mets is a great thing, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
Because I actually know him. I worked at the Madison Avenue building where he worked, and when he was getting jammed up, this poor guy, Mike Steinberg, who was one of the stand-up guys, ended up falling on the sword for Cohen. Cohen was the biggest crybaby in the world. He couldn't park his car in the loading dock. You get a phone call. He couldn't park outside and have us watch his car. Oh, you get a phone call. This guy would have been the worst thing to ever happen to the Mets.
So you wouldn't have liked the guy as an
arrest waiting to happen.
All right, so you didn't like the guy as an owner anyway. Okay. Frank in White Plains, what's up, Frank?
Mike, thank you very much for taking my call.
Yeah, Frank, what's up?
This is very sad for Mets fan. I'm a diehard Mets fan, and this is horrible that I have to listen. I mean, Wilpons, they never do nothing. And George did everything. Yankees, they do everything for their fans. And Wilpons, they don't do nothing. And you hit the nail on the head, Mike, because we all know this was dragging around for a long time, and something's going to happen like
well,
this.
You know, to me, thank you. Well, when deals happen, they're deals that usually you're in, you're out. You're in, you're out. When you got a deal that has a lot of moving parts or people are going to be hanging around the deal, that's when you get mad because you can't have two people running the same thing. I can't own, if I sell you my house, I got to get out. I can't sell you my house and stay in part of the house. It's not going to work. So that's why these are always cumbersome deals. They can be confusing deals because if I'm maintaining even a part of it, I feel like I own it, but the other guy's got a bigger stake and he's also got a bigger wallet. So it's a kind of confusing deal. It really is. Now, we're going on the premise that these guys are right. The stories say the deal is close to being over. I don't have anything official that the deal is over. According to sources, Cohen is deeply unhappy with the Wilpons changing the terms of the deal at a very late stage and has walked away. That is the story that is being reported tonight. Give Barstool credit. They had it first. Let me get a couple more in. Nick and Edison. Go ahead, Nick.
Hey, Mike, there was a great article when this all came out a couple months ago in the New York Times. It was mainly about the Wilpons family. But what the sense of the article was that Fred's getting up there in age.
He is.
The family did not want to trust Jeff with that asset.
That might be very true. It could be. And remember, Sal Kotz is a big part of this, too. And you know what? That might be very true. They felt that it's time to cash in, and they're worried about estate planning, and everybody wanted their piece. Might be very true. Could definitely be true. I'm not disputing that for a second. Actions speak louder than words. Kenny in Point Pleasant. What's up, Kenny?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
What's happening?
I'm a Yankee fan, and I hate the Mets, but I'm actually disappointed. They don't play in the same league, so they wouldn't be competing for first place. But could you imagine, like, the Yankees and Mets both going after Garrett Cole? When was the last time they went after the same free agent?
That would have been, if we had a real arms race with the Yankees and the Mets, that would have been wild. If they really went after him the same way, that would be very wild. Naf and Lawrence, what's up, Naf?
Thank you. How are you?
Good, Naf. What's up? What's happening?
I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over.
You don't think it's over? Okay, why?
Mike, on your show, the day after they bought the team, you said they bought it. He bought it. He took over because the Wilpons and Katz didn't get along anymore. So he came. Now he's pressuring Wolpen to move, and he's going to take over.
No, I never. Naf, that wasn't me, Matt. Naf, I never said the Wilpons and Cats didn't get along. I've never heard that. I don't know that. So there are a lot of people who thought that they wanted to cash in, that part of the family wanted to cash in. That might be true, but I never said they didn't get along. I don't know that to be a fact. I never heard that. That wasn't me. So that was somebody else. Steve in Chappaqua. What's up, Steve?
Hey, Mike, I just want to make a point. You have to go to an hour. You have to go to an hour.
Listen. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right now I have to go because I got to let Eddie and Sweeney and all their people, all their guests get on. But you know what? It was a wild night. I wasn't expecting this. We'll see how this plays out. I'll try to get some information for tomorrow on this. I'm sure there'll be more by the morning. We'll see what happens. The rumor is that, or the word is that the deal is done, that Steve Cohen is out. His 80% purchase of the Mets is over. Let's see if that's true. Eddie's got a baseball show coming up, so you got plenty of time with Sweeney. Baseball hot stove show coming up this evening.